to announce the indictment of Darius Ashley. It was a result of an unprecedented amount of teamwork and cooperation between multiple agencies at the local, state, and federal level to get us to this moment. Just a few weeks ago, we all braved that first snowstorm to meet in a conference room to put the finishing touches on an operation that's been in the works for months. It brought to an end a statewide effort to gather evidence, talk to witnesses, and eventually present this case to a grand jury. And then even today, Department of Corrections got him here for arraignment. The unsealing of the indictment this morning could not have been possible without everybody working together. Now, there are others I want to specifically mention. My chief investigator, Adam Hornick, who is one of the subject matter experts when it comes to using advanced DNA techniques to solve old cases. Past and present Albany detectives, to name a few: Jason Vogel, Kevin Quinlivan, Ron Matos, Jeff Grogan, the PJ's Rob Lawyer. Frankly, it'd be easier for me to list the Albany police who weren't involved in this investigation over the past 20 years. The chief and I were speaking about this case a little. He says, I was on the scene. So, really, the Albany police have been spearheading this effort and refused to let this case go. My old friends Dave Rossi and Cheryl Fowler, past ADAs who refused to close this file because they knew answers would eventually come. And of course, the lead prosecutors on this case, Ryan Carty and Jessica Blaine Lewis, who brought this thing home. Now, this is an expression of care for our community. When done well, our criminal justice system is a collective promise to look out for one another. To look out and make sure that we seek justice no matter how long the road or how high the hurdle. We can use the tools to right ourselves. Now, there is more to come, and of course, Mr. Ashley is presumed innocent until my office can prove otherwise. Today, I had an early Christmas present to the Department family and promised them justice for Gretchen. Folks, at this time, I want to turn this over to Chief Cox from the Albany Police Department for his comments. Thank you.
Thank you, DA Timlin. Thank you all for being here. I want to first start out and just thank Gretchen's family. May 13th of 2005, it was over 20 years ago. They have waited for a day of justice for 20 plus years. They've known, I want to speak about cold cases. We call them cold cases, but in reality, they're not cold cases. They're cases that the men and women standing behind me, the men and women of the police department, the men and women of the district attorney's office, and all the departments here today just continue to work on no matter what. But more importantly, the families live with every day. They're not cold cases. They're cases that we continue to work, continue to make sure that we can bring justice. Whatever that can do to help bring some closure to a family that deserves it, a family on the 13th of 2005 lost a precious 14-year-old, a 14-year-old in the city, a 14-year-old that was going to active middle school, a 14-year-old that should be a thriving adult right now. At the hands of what I can only say, I was involved in a number of the cases, including this, and I can tell you that each and every one of the cases were some of the most horrific cases. So I want to thank the family and patients, and knowing that we never gave up on this case, and they never gave up on this team that was here. This is a partnership with the Albany Police Department, the District Attorney's Office, New York State Police, New York State Supervision, everybody, and all the attorney spoke about closing the loops so that we charge Mr. Ashley with this heinous crime, something that he had done for a long, long time. I also want to particularly recognize some of the current and former Albany police personnel that have been involved in this for a long time. Bob Boyer, Jerry Donovan, Jason Bogle, Kevin Cunliffe, Commander Josiah Jones, Detective Lieutenant Daniel Johnson, Jack Rogan, Ron Matrix, Vic Pizzol, Tom Kuvich, Sidney Barone, even people that are no longer with us, Patricia Farrell. There were a series of events that started in April 2005, and by July 14th of 2005, she was behind bars. And that entire time, we knew that Mr. Ashford was the person with the matter of being together and finally bring justice. And because no one would let this go, the advancements of technology and the fact that no one would let it go, we would do that. And that we wanted to do it. Thank the men and women of all the partners that are here. Again, I thank the family for everything that they've done in having a fair trial. I also want to speak to the greater community and to the families that have lost around years that we still have pieces on. As I said, although the name is cold case, we don't look at any of the cases as cold cases. We continue to look at these cases every single day. We were all getting calls from many of the people that are no longer a part of the police department. They're still part of our family. And we forget about these cases. I was getting calls from some of the detectives that aren't with us in the department anymore last month. We're saying we finally got it. We're finally bringing this to justice. We don't rest until we bring it to justice. The families deserve that, and the victims that somebody like Mr. Ashley, that they left in the wake, he deserves to make sure for the rest of his life. And so,
Ryan Carty has been a friend and colleague of mine for a very long time, and he is frankly one of the best prosecutors I've ever gone up against and now had the pleasure to work with. When I became DA, I sat down with Ryan and I said, "You're going to be in charge of several projects," and this was on the top of my wish list. I wanted to get it done. And with Ryan, I've known that all I have to kind of do is point him in the right direction and he'll go. All the other stuff he's doing, all the other cases he's trying, he had this plan in the works almost the entire year. So I want to turn it over to him for some comments because he's been living inside of this case for a very long time. He was, as I said earlier, he's the one who was able to bring this along with Jessica Lathos. So, Ryan.
Thank you, DA. Those are some very, very kind words. This is not a day about me. This is a day about Gretchen. Ultimately, when DA asked me to take up this investigation, it seemed like an insurmountable task. 20 years had gone by. But as soon as I was able to talk to the many detectives who worked on this case, I knew that we could solve it. And I really thank the DA for thinking of me as highly as he does. Ultimately, this is a day that prosecutors dream about because this is why we do the job. To bring justice for a family who's been waiting for 20 years. So I'm just very thankful. It's one step along the way. I couldn't be here without those before me. All of the ADAs who worked on the case prior to me, Blaine Lewis, who were working on it, all the detectives, all the hard work, everything from the New York State Police Lab. We wouldn't be here today without them. Additionally, while today is a good day, it's not the end. We are going to continue to work. We and all of the police behind us are still working on this case to make sure that we can bring home and bring justice for Gretchen.
Any questions?
It sounds like this was on the radar of this individual for a long time. Why did it take so long to prosecute?
That's a great question. And there have been a lot of advances in technology, and like everybody remembers our cell phone 20 years ago. Our ability to now take DNA samples that exist in time and perfect them and draw from that what is, in my opinion, unimpeachable evidence was one of the breakthroughs that we've had. And I can tell you now that Albany Police, the New York City Crime Lab, the DA's office would keep going back to say, is it good enough? Is it good enough? Can we get there? And only recently we have the tools and the process to really go down that. So that was one part of it, and then there was some other stuff, and over time, people may be more. There's this combination of science, technology, and good old-fashioned detective work that got it.
Is it true that he admitted to another?
I read that, and that's out there in the universe, but I can tell you how we got it.
Prior to May 13, 2005, what was Mr. Ashley doing at the time in his life that placed him on the law enforcement radar screen?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna let the chief answer that.
So he was employed at Parsons at the time, but he came on our radar. So we had a case on April 3rd of 2005 with the case of a 14-year-old female that was abducted and sexually assaulted. That was the first case that came on our radar. Gretchen homicide on May 13th. We then had an attempted abduction of a 14-year-old girl at Hackett Middle School on June 9th of 2005. On that case, we were able to obtain some DNA evidence. And then on July 10th of 2005, we had an abduction of a 22-year-old female sexual assault that led to the identification of Mr. Ashley and the collection of DNA evidence, a lot of work, including from a number of people that are in this room and from behind me today. Ultimately, we were able to arrest him, connecting to the dots to every case, not strong enough to be able to make an arrest for Gretchen that day on July 15th, but the other three cases, and we get a conviction. I also want to say, to the question of why sometimes things take long, we also want to make sure we get it right. In this case, again, we want to make sure we get justice. We like to have swift justice, but we also want to get it right. So Mr. Ashley was no longer a danger to our community, because trust me, up until July 14th of 2005, he was an extreme danger to this.
During the course of his employment in Parsons, did he direct contact with you?
If I remember correctly, he was a cook. I can't say what he had in common.
Can you explain specifically how the DNA replicates the other cases?
So, as the DA said, the technology for what we're able to test and how we're able to test it has come down 2005, 2025. So, we're able to get what those other cases compared to this case led to us being able to get to where we are today.
Obviously, why he was targeting these girls, obviously the young girls, but all the same, relatively the same.
I can answer that question.
Obviously, this is the biggest case. And activated so many people here in the Capitol Region for years and years. We all covered it. Now that you have some sort of sense of did this or positive evidence, are you looking at other cases throughout the Capitol Region that are still open?
So I think that anytime there's somebody like Mr. Ashley that's involved in this multitude of cases, that question always has to be for anything that happened prior to July 4th.
was anyone else on this?
There's no reason to believe that anyone else is involved in that nonsense, right?
So you looked into those other cases that you've listed, the April 3rd one?
He was arrested and prosecuted. He's been in prison for it.
He was arrested for the April 3rd case at one point?
Correct.
But he was out in May?
No, he was arrested for the April 3rd case on July 14th. July 14th was ultimately when he was arrested for the other cases, for all of those other cases that I just spoke about, except for
How long is this current sentence?
45. He's 45 years, so there was a chance that he was going to get out at some point in the future. So
Did it have anything to do with the timing of this and making sure that you did it now, in case there was a parole hearing, or in case at some point in the next year there was a chance?
no. When I became DA, I sat down with members of the Albany Police Department and I said, "What's on your wish list?" Like, and I've said this before. Like, I want to do big things in this office, and this was almost on top of the list. And I said, "Okay, what resources do we need, and how can we get this done?" And again, I want to be able to show that the DA's office and the police and the community can come together and actually do great things, and look out for victims and do all that stuff that we think the DA's office and the police department should do. So this was us doing that, and like I said, showing a care for this community that I want everybody to know that.
Obviously, I don't think that the family wants to talk too much, but who was able to deliver that news to the family, and what was that moment like for you all?
Honestly, we let Jay Vogel, he's now one of my investigators, but he was an Albany detective for a long time. He's been with this case since the first day, so we let him know. It was a good phone call. Sorry.
No, I'm just curious to know more about, he in July was arrested, he was linked to the other cases, but not this one.
So there's a difference between being able to link somebody to a case and being able to say, we're confident that we're going to be able to convict them. What we want to be able to do is convict them beyond a reasonable. You're able to convict them beyond a reasonable doubt for 3 cases in the prison for 40 years. And over the last 20 years, there's been no one here that has not continued to work on this case to ensure that we will now convict him beyond a reasonable doubt for the homicide of Richard Perlman, away for the rest of us for the homicide.
So is that what it is now, DA? Will you be facing sentence with this? Or?
Yeah, and the chief is right. This is internal to my office. The question is always, what can we use? I'm not comfortable with anything going forward unless I know that the proof got reasonable doubt. So we got to that mark and sent it forward. Obviously, the jury of peers gets to decide that ultimate question, but we're very comfortable giving the trial. So.
It may be a compliment that, you just didn't really know exists. We got certain you guys have a 2 year data.
Again, we dedicated some resources in this office towards it, and the Albany police have kept the fire burning for time. So I don't say like November 1st, but it's been over the past 10 months where we're really not good.
Guys, we'll have a press release being important. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, everybody. Have a nice holidays, okay? Thank you. Thank you.